right, Jay. So now we're at 25K per month, man. How are you feeling? Be brutally honest. How do you feel how my service went and everything? Just kind of let me know, brother.
Good, man. I mean, you guys, yeah, put it together kind of quick, easy on my end. I don't have to do really any of the heavy lifting. I like it.
All right, let's start with the very first thing that we fixed for Jay Vincent, his offer. And I want to take some time on this because honestly, if your offer isn't dialed in, nothing else is going to matter. You can run ads, post content every single day, even hire setters and closers. But if your offer doesn't resonate, you're just spinning your wheels. So let me break down exactly what we did for Jay Vincent's offer, why it worked, and how you can take the same principles and apply them to your business. When Jay came to us, he already had the skills. Like the guy could deliver results, but the way his offer was positioned was killing his conversions. Here's what I mean. His offer was very broad. It was vague and it was instantly not clear what transformation somebody was going to get by working with him. And if your prospect can't clearly see the transformation, if they can't visualize themselves going from point A to point B with your help, they're not going to pay you, especially not at a premium level. Think about it this way. Imagine you're walking into a store and the store owner says, hey, we sell stuff that helps people improve their lives. You're basically going to be like, okay, but what does it actually do? So that's what Jay's offer felt like. It was very generic. So he was doing the work, but it wasn't packaged in the way that it kind of made people like actually want it and resonate with it. Does that make sense? So the very first thing that we did was simplify it. We asked, what's the core transformation Jay helps people achieve? Not all the side benefits, not all the random stuff, right? But the actual transformation. And once we locked that down, we rebuilt the entire offer around it. Then we layered what's called a unique mechanism. This is basically the signature process or framework that makes your offer different. For Jay, we put out the exact method he was already using with clients and gave it a name. So instead of calling it coaching, he was selling a proven system. That one shift, naming it from a completely different name, instantly made his offer more valuable. And it sounds stupid, but it generally makes sense. People generally resonate with whenever you're actually talking about something tangible to latch onto. So the next thing what we did was basically reposition him in the market. And before, Jay was kind of competing with almost every other fitness coach in his space. And that meant that there was a lot of price wars. But once we reframed his offer as a premium solution, everything changed. We increased his price point, and instead of resistance, he actually started closing more clients because people now saw him as the authority. But here's the thing, prospects don't buy the cheapest option. They buy the clearest solution, and clarity sells. By dialing in the offer and positioning, Jay's clients finally understood exactly what they were buying and why it was worth the investment. And the results spoke for themselves. Almost overnight, Jay went from having to convince people on sales call to having clients show up pre-sold. He already started signing people in full without needing discounts, without ever having to over-explain. His conversion rates literally shot through the roof, and his stress went all the way down. And it wasn't about working harder, it was about working smarter, and it all started with the offer. By reframing it, we took him from being just another coach to literally the authority in his niche, and something that nobody's ever seen before, which is the golden era system that helped people look like people from the golden era without putting in all the amount of time and work in the gym, right? So the funnel, the ads, the scaling to actually work, all we need to do was just reframe the offer. Now, I want you to think about your own business for a second. If you're struggling to get clients, if you're constantly like hearing objections like I need to think about it or it's too expensive, that's not always a sales problem. A lot of times it's an offer problem. If people aren't excited about what you're selling, they can't clearly see themselves in the before and after transformation, they're not going to buy. So here's the question. Can you explain your offer in one sentence? Can you clearly say, I help this type of person achieve this result using this method? If you can't, then the chances of your offer not selling is so great, and you need to work on that, and you generally need to work on that, because once you fix it, everything else is going to start clicking, and everything else is going to start making sense, and you're going to sell more of your offer. So that's the first thing that we did for Jay Vincent. We fixed his offer, we stripped it down to its core, the transformation, we added a unique mechanism, we positioned it as premium, and that completely changed the game for him. His clients finally understood what he did, why it was different, and why it was worth paying for. All right, now let's talk about the second big thing that we basically fixed for Jay Vincent. And I really want to slow down here, because this is one of the biggest mistakes I see coaches and consultants and sometimes agency owners make all the time. They overcomplicate their funnel. They build these like long drawn out processes with multiple pages, endless emails, fancy automations, but at the end of the day, none of it is going to matter if the funnel doesn't actually convert strangers into paying clients. And that's exactly what was happening with Jay. On the surface, his funnel looked good, but underneath it, it was broken. Let me show you what I mean, okay? So when Jay came to us, his funnel had all the pieces you would expect. Ads going to a landing page, emails after that, then a webinar, then another email sequence, and finally, a single call to action at the very end. In theory, it looked impressive, but here's the problem. Human beings don't have the attention span for a funnel like that anymore. We're in the TikTok area. People don't jump through like 10 hoops before they even know what to do, okay? So what happened, people would click on his ad, they skim through the landing page, maybe they watch a little bit of the video, and by the time they reached the CTA, they already had clicked off, and they didn't really want to do it anymore because of how long it was, okay? So instead of like patching this, we pretty much just rebuilt the entire funnel from scratch, and we made it shorter, way shorter. But here's the twist: we didn't build in it like another complicated landing page. We basically just had a simple video explaining his services with a booked call strategy, and then a simple lead qualification on the calendar. Okay, so instead of pushing people through endless steps, we just made his funnel pretty much the central hub with all the conversions just kind of happen right there, just very fast, so we could get the most amount of people coming into the funnel. Okay, so when somebody clicks on Jay's content or his ads, they directly land on his profile right there in seconds. They can see what he helps, what problem he solves, and exactly how to work with them. His bio, his pinned comment, his highlights, all of it was set up like a funnel. So instead of waiting until the end of the video for the call to action, every single piece of content has its own mini call to action that might be comment below or DM me this or book a call. Suddenly, instead of one single chance to convert, Jay had dozens of chances to build rapport every single day and get more leads in the calendar. And the reason this works so well is because people don't buy in a straight line. They need multiple touch points. Someone might see a reel and start following, and a week later they might finally comment or post. A few after that, they see a client testimonial and actually DM you. Finally, they hop on a call and become a client. The profile funnel makes that natural. It meets people where they are in their buying journey instead of forcing them in through some, rigid sequence. Think about your own habits. When's the last time you actually sat through a 45-minute webinar before deciding to buy something? Probably not a long time ago, bro. Like, to be honest, like, you're not doing that. But how often do you actually follow someone, engage with their content, and eventually buy from them, right? So you're constantly seeing their face every time you open the app. That's how people buy, bro. That's exactly why Jay's funnel transformation was so powerful, because he just switched to that single model, and that made everything possible, okay? And so once we made this shift, the results were immediate. Jay's engagement skyrocketed because now every single piece of content had a clear direction for his audience. His inbox started filling with DMs, not from random people, but from qualified prospects who are actually ready to have a conversation. His calendars got booked with calls, and the best part of it, bro, it felt effortless. Instead of chasing leads and pushing them through a chunky process, his funnel was pulling them in naturally. His business went from reactive and unpredictable to consistent and scalable. And honestly, the look on his face when he realized that he no longer had to hunt for clients, it was kind of priceless. I'm not going to lie. So let me turn this back to you for a second. If you're listening to this and your funnel feels like a ghost town, you're driving traffic but nobody's converting, chances are your funnel is too long or too complicated or too unclear. The fix isn't going to be adding more steps. The fix is going to be simplifying. Ask yourself, is someone land on your profile right now? Would they instantly know who you are, who you help, how you help them, and what the next step is? If your answer is no, then you're leaving money on the table every single day, and your profile is not going to convert like how it should be. Okay, so it should be obvious what's inside on what your profile, how you do everything. If someone has to dig to figure it out, they'll just walk across the street, across to your competitor, and buy from them. Okay, so that's exactly what we helped Jay fix. We pretty much fixed all the funnel, overcomplicated funnel, and built him a simple, more powerful profile funnel that did the heavy lifting for him, gave him multiple conversion points, and boosted his engagement, and created a steady stream of inbound leads. And that's exactly how we helped him pretty much just fix his funnel. So now I want to go ahead and talk about the actual paid ads and the engagement software that we installed for him as well. All right, so now let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle. It was the ads and engagement. And here's the truth. Most people get this part completely wrong. They think that running ads basically means like a complicated funnel, sending people to a landing page and then just hoping for conversions, but that's not how it worked for Jay. In fact, the majority of his results literally didn't even come from a traditional funnel. They came directly from his profile. So let me break this down for you. When Jay first came to us, he had already tried running ads. He was already boosting posts, running some traffic campaigns, sending people to some sort of landing page. But the problem was the people who were clicking weren't converting. They'd land on a page, maybe skim through it, and then there wasn't enough trust to like build for them to actually take the next step. And that was the fatal flaw in most of his ads. And that's how most coaches run their ads. And you're probably spending a lot of money sending strangers into a cold funnel, and you wonder why they don't buy. And it's because it's not the ads don't work, it's the system that you're plugging them into is literally broken. So here's what we did differently. Instead of sending ad traffic to a dead landing page, we directed it straight to Jay's profile. Remember, in part 2, we rebuilt his profile so that it acted the funnel, clear positioning, proof everywhere, and multiple call to actions. That meant when somebody clicked on his ad, they weren't taken from some generic opt-in page. They landed right on his profile where they could instantly see his content, his authority, his client's result, and exactly how to work with him. And the crazy part, most of his conversions didn't come directly from an ad to like with the call to action, or like click to call or something like that. They came from people visiting his profile, literally binge watching his content, engaging with his posts, and then DMing him when they were ready. The ads weren't closing the sale. They were just literally the entry point that put people into Jay's ecosystem, his profile and content, that the actual selling. Now, we didn't stop there. The second layer we added was our engagement software, and this is where it gets powerful. What the software does is it engages with Jay's ideal prospects at scale. People who already have following or engaging with his competitors. Think about that for a second. Instead of waiting around for leads, Jay was able to put himself directly in front of people who were already in the market for his type of solution. So while ads were bringing in cold traffic to his profile, the engagement software was simultaneously pulling in warm traffic from his competitor audience every single day. New people were visiting his profile, interacting with his content, and then sliding into his DMs. And it wasn't about chasing him, it was about creating an environment where leads naturally came to him. And the reason this combination works so well is because ads rarely close deals alone. Ads build awareness, but content builds trust. Engagement creates conversions, and when you combine all three of that, that's when you get predictable growth. For Jay, the ads drove consistent traffic, his profile funnel converted the traffic into warm leads, and the engagement software expanded his reach into competitor audience. And all three pieces work together like gears in a machine. And the results, Jay started getting profile visits daily from people who had never seen his ads or discovered him through our engagement software. Instead of wondering where his next lead was going to come from, he had already a steady flow of qualified prospects reaching out to him. And because they'd already seen his content and understood his offer, the sales conversions were easy. His calendar filled up, his close rate went up, and his revenue followed. Okay, so here's the key takeaway I want you to take from this entire video. Stop thinking of ads as a thing that's going to close you more sales. That's where most coaches burn money. Ads aren't supposed to do all the work. Their job is only to get the attention and send people into your world, and in your profile and your content should do the selling. And if you want to multiply that effect, you need an engagement system that brings new eyeballs to your profile every single day, even when you're not posting. So that's the final piece of Jay's Vincent transformation. We rebuilt his ad strategy so that the traffic went straight into his profile funnel. We layered on engagement software to siphon leads directly from his competitors, and the combination literally gave him the consistent traffic and consistent leads and predictable growth. And that's how you go from struggling to with broker ads to scaling a business that literally pulls clients in literally daily. And if you want to see exactly how the system can work for you, just click the link in the bio, book a call with me and my team, and we'll walk you through a strategy call, and I'll show you exactly how everything works.